Welcome to the Art Lady's Home. Today I'm going to be making a vegetable-based tomato pasta sauce. And we're going to put all of the fresh vegetables I picked up at the farmer's market into a pot, and I'm going to let it simmer all day. And what I have here is 3 carrots that I'm going to chop up really fine. Actually, all of this vegetables that you see here, I'm going to be chopping up real fine so that it simmers and just becomes a sauce, basically. So I'm basically going to cook the heck out of it all day long. So I'm going to chop everything up fine, and then I'll place it into the pot. But I have here a dozen tomatoes. They were so cheap this weekend. That's what inspired me. And then I have almost a whole package of those mushrooms. That's a large package. 3 carrots, 5 onions, an eggplant, 2 types of zucchini, and a yellow squash, and then 2 peppers. And then I'm going to throw in it some dash of wine. But as I put things in, I'll show you how I make this. But my first step is to go ahead and wash all these really, really good. I have, right next to my stove, I have a vegetable sink. So I'm going to prepare all my vegetables here, and then I cut them up, and then I'll throw them in. And as I'm washing the vegetables and cutting them up, I'll start throwing them in the pot so they start cooking. And then I'll start with the tomatoes first, and then I will add everything else. And then I'm going to throw in some garlic. But as I throw in my spices and things, I'll show you exactly how I'm going to be doing this. And of course, you can always adjust the recipe to how you like it. You might like more carrots or less carrots, more peppery taste. That's up to you. But this is just a random type of what I had in my refrigerator. I'm throwing into my vegetable sauce. You can always add more vegetables or less if you want it more tomato based, but there's no right or wrong to this. Basically just simmering it all day with your spices that you like. But I'll show you step by step how I'm going to go ahead and do this. And the homemade sauces just come out delicious. And you know they're 100% healthy for you. You're not having any added preservatives. I'm trying to stay away from that kind of thing and go all natural cooking. This summer especially, to become more health conscious. But let me get started. I'm going to chop everything up and pop it in the pot and let it simmer. What I did was I diced up the tomatoes, and I diced them into about 1/4-inch square pieces. And I did a few of them, and I put them in the pot to start. And now that'll give the juice so that nothing will stick to my pan. I don't want to put oil in this. I'm trying to make this really healthy. So I put a few tomatoes in the pan to provide juice to start, and then I'm going to simmer all of my onions, and then I'm going to throw in my garlic. So right now what I'm going to do, and this is what I do for the garlic, I take the garlic, and I have a lot of center pieces of cloves, because when I went to the farmer's market this weekend, I picked up a lot of big clove garlic, and I freeze that. So I was planning on making this sauce, so I saved all the centers for this sauce so that I can just process them quickly in the garlic press. So I take the centers, and I don't take the skins off. And what I do is I press it through this type of a garlic press that you don't need the skins off. The other ones, the other pieces of garlic I've processed, I took the skins off them, and I put them in the freezer so that I can have them for later use, so they don't go bad. When I buy large quantities of garlic, I like to do this. That way they won't go bad in the fridge. But these are all the centers from, I think there was like six big giant cloves of garlic. So this is the centers of about 6 of them. And I'm going to put them in the sauce after I press them through the garlic press. But it's quick and easy with that garlic press. I did take my onions and I chopped them up using my little mini chopper, and you can see how fine the onions are. And I'm going to let this all simmer together as I'm chopping up the rest of the vegetables. For the carrots, I'm dicing them up really, really fine in this simple hand chopper. So I've used my hand chopper, and I'll show you, this is, I put on the cutting board the little tiny pieces so you can see how small they are. That's just my personal preference because I don't like the chunky carrots in the sauce, but I like them to flavor it because the carrots do make a difference in that sauce. what the carrots are doing is it's giving the sauce the sweetness so that I don't have to add any sugars to it. So I'm showing you now what they look like as it's just simmering. And I have this right now on a low simmer. It's a number 3 on my burner. And so it's just a low simmer. And you can see how small the carrots are compared to the onions. And then I've also chopped up pretty fine the zucchini as well. All of this I want to just blend in to make it a nice puree kind of sauce. So they will blend in nicely. I'm also going to chop up very, very fine as well some celery, because that gives flavor to that spaghetti sauce, and I didn't show you that. It also provides you with a lot of fiber. So I'm going to chop up about, say, 6 stalks of celery as well. So I'm going to finish doing the carrots, and I'll pop in the celery, and I'm going to do it as fine as I can. Just added my celery. I chopped off the ends. Let me show you my compost bowl here. And the tops. I washed it really, really good, and then I added, I chopped it up really fine with my handheld chopper. Now, of course, if you have a food processor, you can chop it up with that too. I just don't have one. And then what I did was I took 3 of the stalks of celery, and I took some of the juice that was forming in the pot, and I put it in the blender, and I put the last 4 tomatoes in the blender as well. And what I did was I blended it so that the fibers are broken up even more into the spaghetti. I want some fibers that are long for the celery, but then I want others that are blended so that the flavor can go throughout the whole pot of sauce. I sliced up the zucchini and the eggplant into pretty good sized chunks. They're about a half or a quarter inch, well, actually a half-inch chunks here. The parts that had the seeds I cut up even thinner, smaller, and the zucchini, you can see they're pretty good sized chunks. That's about, if you look at my finger, about a half-inch chunk here. That way they won't break down as much. My theory is if the vegetable is soft, then you keep it bigger, and it depends on if you want bigger chunks in your vegetable sauce. And I did want chunks of zucchini, and I wanted bigger chunks of my eggplant. If the vegetables are harder, then I slice them and chunk them smaller. So that's how I cook. So I'm going to do the same with the peppers and mushrooms. I want bigger chunks of mushrooms in the sauce as well. So I'm going to finish chopping up everything and add it to the pot. This is the sauce as it's simmering about 2 hours after I started making it. It's simmering up nice. I really didn't have a lot of liquid, so that's good. All this is simmering out nice. I added the mushrooms. I chopped some a little bit finer, and then I have big chunks. It is a beautiful, hearty, robust, it almost feels like it's a meat sauce. It's so beautiful and thick. I love it. The flavor was absolutely amazing before I even added spices. So make sure you taste it first before you put your spices in, because you might not need to add much of the spice. But let me go ahead and show you what I did add to this and how much I added. I used some black pepper, and I used about a tablespoon of black pepper. So like I said, you don't need to add any of this, but this is optional. It depends on how much spice you want. We like ours a little bit spicier, so we're adding these things to it. I did add a tablespoon of sea salt. I might not have needed to add that much though. Taste yours and make sure, because it's tasted absolutely delicious, like I said, without it. So I would save the sea salt for last, because after you add all your seasonings, you know, the less salt you're cooking with, the more healthier it's going to be. So add all your seasonings and then do your sea salt for last. But like I said, a tablespoon. I would do no more than that, because I'm trying to eliminate salt. This Herbes de Provence is absolutely delicious. This has all kinds of Italian seasonings. It's got some rosemary in it. It's got even some lavender in it, blue lavender flower. delicious. And I usually pick up tons of this when I go to France, and it stores pretty good. But when I buy it in France, though, it comes in a bottle. I mean, actually, it comes in a bag, like a fabric bag. So, and it's a lot of it for like $4. It's amazing. But anyways, if you haven't tried Herbes de Provence, try it. I did put a tablespoon of that in. So far we have a tablespoon of everything. The oregano, I put a tablespoon of oregano. Onion powder, I used a tablespoon of that. And basil, a tablespoon of basil, since we have a huge pot here. I used 2 tablespoons of parsley flakes. If you have fresh parsley, add a bunch of fresh parsley into it as well. But these are basically the spices that I use. Now, if you want to add a kick to this, my son likes things a little bit crazy on the spicy side. You can add some of these optional spices if you want to. I just added a dash of cayenne pepper here to it, but I'm talking a small sprinkle, because he likes it a little bit spicy, but you don't have to add any of the spicy stuff. This I keep in my drawer here. This is health benefit spices here, along with basil. This helps reduce fat. So I have that always right there so I know if I want to pop any of this stuff in my foods. But if you want to add a little bit of the cayenne pepper here, that'll help give us some spice to it. But like I said, it tastes absolutely beautiful, even without the spices. So if you're missing something here, don't worry, because we've added so much vegetable into this. Our vegetables are what are naturally seasoning this, especially the celeries and the onions and the carrots are helping to give it a sweetness. It doesn't even feel very acidic. If you want to add sugar, you can. I'm not going to. Some people like it sugary, but the carrots, I think, are doing my trick for me. I don't need to add that to it. So let me know in the comments how you enjoy this. It's simmering up. I'm going to continue simmering it, and then I'll show you what it looks like over the plate of vegetables that we're going to be using.